Guys, it's Julia Papworth with Win Daily's Waiver Wire wins for week 10 of the fantasy season. You can find me on social media. I am at Julia Papworth. All right, guys, let's get to it. We are starting with the quarterbacks. It's a kind of rough week for the waivers, so take every name I give you with a little grain of salt. Keep in mind, this coming week, we have some big teams that are on buys. We have Philadelphia, Los Angeles Rams, Miami Dolphins, and Kansas City Chiefs. So you know at least 3 of those teams have quarterbacks that are on starting rosters. So quarterbacks that you are looking at to maybe fill in for you. Number 1, Kyler Murray. We've been saying it over and over again. He is 59% rostered, and head coach Jonathan Gannon did announce today that he will be starting in week 10. So expect him out there. Expect some rust. But hey, he's a running quarterback. Get him out there. He's worth a shot, especially if you had one of those top quarterbacks, if you had a Tua, if you had a Patrick Mahomes and you didn't draft a backup. If he's out there, go ahead and grab him. Will Levis, Tennessee Titans. He is 45% rostered. He came back down to earth last week, but he still had a pretty decent game. He went 22 for 39, 262 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, but he looks okay, guys. He looks better than Ryan Tannehill. And again, it looks like he's going to be throwing. He's getting some of those wide receivers involved. So he is someone to look to pick up as possibly a bye-week replacement as well. Besides that, we're digging a little deeper. Josh Dobbs had an amazing day on Sunday, coming back and saving the day for the Minnesota Vikings. He is 16% rostered. You also have Taylor Heineke from Atlanta, 11% rostered. Those 2 guys are good superflex options for sure. They should be rostered if you are in a superflex league. And if they're not, go and grab them. Again, maybe a bye-week replacement. Jaylen Warren, 65% rostered. Double check and see if he's out there for the Steelers. He had 11 carries, 88 yards. He was 3 for 3 on receptions for 25 yards as well. Najee scored the touchdown finally, but Jaylen Warren is clearly the better back out of the Steelers. And if he's out there, he should be rostered for sure. Same to say with Tyler Algier, Atlanta Falcons. He is 57% rostered. I do not know what Arthur Smith is doing with play calling and who he's using. It's like, why would you not use Bijan Robinson, one of the most generational talents out there? Be that as it may, Algier had 12 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. Look, we know that he's still relevant. That's it. That's all we have to know. As long as Arthur Smith is back there, Tyler Algier is going to be relevant, so he should be rostered. Tyjae Spears, Tennessee Titans. He's still only 41% rostered. A lot of people went ahead and dropped Spears once Derrick Henry was not traded at the trade deadline. Sure, he's not going to become the running back 1, but he is definitely one injury away from becoming the running back 1, and he still was used in the offense. He had 5 carries, only for 18 yards, but he had 4 for 6 with receptions for 4 yards. He had 16.7% of the targets, and he had 5 carries versus Henry's 17. Yes, like I said, he's not going to be easily the running back 1 on that team, but he is a great handcuff to have, especially if you're the Derrick Henry owner and you look like you're making the playoffs. Keaton Mitchell is going to be the big waiver wire ad this week for the Baltimore Ravens. He's only 4% rostered. He had 9 carries for 138 yards and a touchdown. He has some stuff to overcome on the depth chart for sure, right? You've got Gus Edwards, you have Justice Hill, he played a lot of snaps, and you're still always going to have Lamar Jackson, who is someone to account for in the rushing game. But Keaton Mitchell is fast, and he looks amazing out there. He definitely has a chance. He had the same amount of snaps as Gus Edwards did. Edwards was battling a toe injury during the week. He just got really lucky falling into the end zone for fantasy managers. Keep an eye on Keaton Mitchell. If you have a deep bench and can roster him, I would pick him up. He is someone that you're not going to start right away. You may not start him at all this week because you kind of need to see what the Ravens are going to do with utilizing him. But like I said, if you have a deep bench, if you have room for him, I would pick him up. You also should keep an eye on Ty Chandler, Minnesota Vikings. He's only 1% rostered. Cam Akers tore his Achilles again. So he's going to be out of the rotation. You've got Alexander Madison, who's going to be your running back 1, of course, but that bumps up Ty Chandler to your running back 2. So he's someone to keep an eye on as well. Jahan Dotson continues to be a thing. He's probably rostered. He's 65% rostered in leagues. He went 4 for 8, 69 yards and a touchdown, and he had the second most routes run on the team. Double check and see if he's there. They're going to him. That's it. And he's showing off his talent. Everyone in Houston had a big game pretty much. If you were a pass catcher on that team at least. Tank Dell. 48% rostered. We've been saying it the last couple weeks. He went 6 for 11, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is clearly CJ Stroud's number one guy. He's his number one wide receiver. He played the most snaps, routes, and targets on the team on Sunday. And look, as much as we would all like to see it, CJ Stroud is not going to have the week that he had this week every week, but he's throwing a Tank Dell. Tank Dell has talent. Demario Douglas was who everyone ran to the waiver wire last week to pick up. 35% rostered for the New England Patriots. He didn't have as much of a game. He went 5 for 7 with 55 yards, but he did play 53 snaps and he ran 38 routes. Hunter Henry and Ramondre got the touchdowns, but Demario Douglas did run the most wide receiver routes. So it looks like he has sort of slid into the wide receiver one role with Kendrick Bourne out for injury. You could double check on Noah Brown if you are in a very deep league. He's the other Houston wide receiver. He is only 2% rostered. He went 6 for 6, 153 yards and 1 touchdown. In a shallow league, I'm not looking at Noah Brown, but if you have a team where you have to start 3 wide receivers, you have a deeper bench, he's someone to look at. He ran the 3rd most routes for Houston. Also, Kyle Phillips for Tennessee. He's another person in a deep league. He's not rostered at all. He went 4 for 5, 68 yards, and he had the 2nd most targets on the team. Look, DeAndre Hopkins is always going to be the number one guy. We know that. But with Will Levis there, he's kind of getting to know his people, and he seems to really like Kyle Phillips. Traylon Burks was also injured on Thursday. He looks like he's going to be okay, but I bet he's going to be out. Clearly a concussion there. And Kyle Phillips ended up having almost a 14% target share, so look for him in deeper leagues. Also, I would suggest to keep your eye on Jalen Guyton for the Los Angeles Chargers. He is 1% rostered. We don't really know who is going to come up and be the second guy behind Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnston has had opportunities, but he sort of hasn't shown anything. So keep an eye on Jalen Guyton, especially. Double check that Jake Ferguson is not available. He's 77% rostered, but he definitely needs to be on a fantasy team. He went 7 for 10, 91 yards and a touchdown. He's Dak's second favorite behind CeeDee Lamb, and he's looking great. He's a start it and forget it. Same with Taysom Hill at this point. He's 64% rostered. He's just doing it all. You want a touchdown on the ground? Sure. You want to throw a touchdown? Sure. Do you want to maybe catch a touchdown some other day? Sure. Sounds great. 11 carries for 52 yards. He threw a touchdown. He also caught a touchdown. Look, it's Taysom Hill. You're going to start him at this point. You're going to have ebbs and flows, and you're going to just have to deal with it. Trey McBride, again, everyone was running to the waiver wire last week to pick him up. He didn't do as much this week. He's now 63% rostered. But look, the Cardinals did nothing this week. That's what it was. He ran the 3rd most routes of the Cardinals, but Kyler's back next week. And if you're betting on that, you can still use McBride. Jonnu Smith. I hate to say it that he might be the tight end in Atlanta to own. I think it's absolutely silly. It's what I said. I don't understand you, Arthur Smith. I just do not. Jonnu Smith is 28% rostered. He was 5 for 6, 100 yards, a touchdown. He only ran 5 less routes than Kyle Pitts, and he played 1 less snap. So there's that. I also would suggest looking at Luke Musgrave, Green Bay Packers, 22% rostered. He was 3 for 4 for 51 yards and a touchdown. He tied for the most routes run. Christian Watson had an injury at the end of the game. I think he injured like 4 different things, like his chest, his back, he had a concussion, all that sort of stuff. The Green Bay Packers offense is not amazing. I do not trust Jordan Love that much, but if Christian Watson is out, Musgrave will continue to have those targets, and if he's getting, 4 or 5 targets every game and he manages to fall into the end zone, that's good enough for me for a starting tight end. Last one to look at is Cade Otton, Tampa Bay. He's only 5% rostered. This is his 2nd good week in a row. He went 6 for 9 with 70 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns, tied for the most routes run. Mike Evans looked to be shaken up at the end of that as well. Again, if you can get a tight end who's getting that many targets, he's startable in this league. He really is. And remember, there's 4 teams on a bye next week. Okay, guys, that is it. That is the Win Daily Waiver Wire wins for week 10 of the fantasy season. I'm Julia Papworth. You can find me on social at Julia Papworth. All right, you guys, good luck this week.